The lawyer just simply reminds her, like, you need to make sure you're properly caring for your slaves because, yes, they might be your slaves, but they're still humans. You still need to care for the humans. It's so sad because, like, it's like a slap on the wrist from, like, the SPCA. No, feed your dog. Like, these are human lives, but... Hey, guys. Welcome back to 2021 on my channel, where we went from being overly peppy and constantly like, oh yeah, I love this color, I love this palette, oh my god, and that's not me. So now y'all have the real me, and to make things better, I decided to take this channel in a direction that truly 100% interests me. So the first video, I was actually so excited to film that, and I really hope that came through on the film. I hope you were able to see just how truly excited I was to do that. Like, y'all have no idea. I'm putting some chapstick on because I have foundation on my lips right now and it looks weird. Okay, now that we have chapstick on, I feel better. It doesn't look better, but I feel better. Okay, so I really hope y'all were able to see how excited I was to do the Addie Hall and Zach Bowen video. But that was my first video doing it, so it was a little rough. However, this is our second video. So I'm going into this with a better idea of how I want to do this. Because remember, when in the Let Me Explain video, I told y'all, like, I want to do things that interest me. I want the real me to come through, and I also want to think things through better. So that's what I'm doing with this. The first one, yes, I did think it through. I planned it. I had my notes. I had everything, but you saw me reading from my notes quite a bit. I want to go ahead and avoid that in this video, but I want to be able to focus on the story and not so much the makeup. I know the first video was a lot to take in. Like, as I was going through and editing it, my husband was like, are you sure that's the video you want to do for the first video like this? Like, that's a lot. I was like, I know, but it was one of the stories that, if you don't live in New Orleans, and then some people that live in New Orleans don't even know about that story. So it's a story that is a big deal. And it's also the most recent one. I wanted to start with a recent one, and I wanted to start with one that showed y'all I'm not playing around with this. Like, I'm serious. I want to dive into the dark side of New Orleans. Y'all know the party side, y'all know the fun side, y'all know the Bourbon Street, the Mardi Gras, the food, the costumes, all the fun. But I don't want to focus on the fun. I want to focus on the dark history that you don't really hear about. Now, some of these stories you are gonna know, like Marie Laveau, Delphine LaLaurie. Like, you're gonna know those stories. A lot of the reason is because of American Horror Story Coven, but I wanna dive deep into these stories. So today we are doing the Delphine LaLaurie. The rolling of my R's are coming out, and I don't even like speak that good of Spanish. That's sad. Okay, so the Delphine LaLaurie, Delphine LaLaurie. We are going to focus on her today, and so the cool thing about this is it not only doubles as it's like a triple whammy, because it's such a huge part of New Orleans history. It's a murder mystery, and it's a haunted location. So we are not going to the location itself, unfortunately. I've actually talked to my husband, and we were talking about doing a haunted history tour. They have a lot of them here in New Orleans, and where we can go and actually like see all these buildings. And I definitely want to do a video on that. And then I also want to talk about how their stories coincide with my stories and the differences. Because I have heard that the tour guides make up as they go. I've done thorough research. So, all right. So, Delphine LaLaurie. Let's get started. So, Delphine LaLaurie. Let's talk about why she's known, first of all. She is... Delphine LaLaurie, there's a lot of stories about her. The most popular one is that she tortured and murdered slaves. But aside from that, like, you really don't hear much about her herself. You don't hear about her history, or how she got to be so wealthy, or where she's from, or how they came to New Orleans. Because, I mean, she was born in 1775. So you gotta keep in mind that, like, people were migrating to New Orleans in that time. It's not like today where you're born here, most of the time you don't leave. Like, New Orleans is just like one of those cities where, like, I myself, I've said I want to leave, but it sucks you in. I think it's the haunted history that sucks me in, but you know. So she was born in 1775, and her family immigrated from Ireland to New Orleans in the 1730s. So she was born in New Orleans, but her family is from Ireland. Now, there's a lot of rumors as to how she became to have, like, that hatred for slaves. And they stem from, like, a slave murdered a family member, to, like, from it, like, being like her sister, to her uncle, to it. But no one really truly 100% knows why she had such a hatred for slaves. So, I mean, y'all need to keep in mind, this is the 1700s. Granted, not everybody treated their slaves as poorly as LaLaurie did. We're gonna call her Delphine. I don't like saying her last name. Like, I just, because, like, I learned Italian and Spanish, so I have a tendency to roll my R's like Spanish, but I like to pronounce, like, the las and the all that in Italian, so we're just gonna call her Delphine. So that's the rumor as to why she had such a hatred towards slaves. Now, at 24, she married a high-ranking Spanish officer. This is before she had her mansion at 1140 Royal Street. Yes, the mansion still stands today. It's been, like, rebuilt and remodeled, of course, because you'll find out later on. But at 24, she got married, and she had a child with that high-ranking Spanish officer. And that child was a girl. Now, she doesn't really do anything notable during this time besides have a daughter. And then her husband died in 1804. Not a mysterious death, he just died. She didn't kill him. I will say, out of all of her shadiness, she never killed her husbands. She had some shady moments. And I say husbands because she did marry a few times. Now, in 1804, her husband died. She had a daughter with him. Blah, 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 woo, woo, woo. In 1808, she remarried. Now, this time she married up in society. Now, keep in mind, her first husband was a high-ranking Spanish officer. Her second husband was a banker, a lawyer, an entrepreneur. Like, he had money, okay? His name was Jean Blanc, and they married in 1808. Now, before his death in 1816, now, note, so her husband died in 1804. She remarried in 1808 to her second husband, Jean Blanc. I don't know why I keep wanting to call him LeBlanc. She remarried, and he died in 1816. So they were together roughly 8 years. Now, during those 8 years, Delphine and Jean had 4 children. So at this point, Delphine now has 5 children. Jean dies in 1816, and then until 1825, Delphine remains single, raising her 5 children as a widow. So in 1825, Louis LaLaurie moved to New Orleans from Paris. Louis was a doctor. See? You seeing a trend here? I don't even know if that was intentional, but so plot twist. Delphine was Louis's senior. Yes. She was approximately 50. Okay, so at this point, we're in like 1825, 1830, somewhere in between there. And she is married, well, she's been married twice. This color has a total of 5 children. And when she starts a relationship with Louis, she is approximately 50. And he's younger than her. Now, he's from Paris. They hit it off. They start a relationship. Starts like, I don't know. Would it be considered courting back then? They start banging. It's like the best way to say it, because she gets pregnant. So she already got 5 kids by 2 baby daddies, and she's messing around with this younger guy, Cougar Delphine over here, and she ends up getting pregnant. And 5 months after she gives birth to her child, to their child, Delphine and Louis get married. Now, Delphine at this point is already wealthy from her 2 previous marriages. Now, using her wealth from those 2 marriages, this is when the LaLaurie mansion comes into play. She purchases the property at 1140 Royal Street with her money. She's an independent woman, guys. Now, keep in mind, she hates slaves. We don't know why. And the weird thing is, between the years of 1816 and 1834, she had at least 54 slaves. And it's said that she was like very involved in the construction of her mansion on Royal Street. Like she has all of these slaves that are basically taking care of her kids, taking care of the home, while she is out managing the construction of her mansion on Royal Street. And we're in like 1830s, late 1820s, early 1830s. And it's 1828, and rumors begin to circulate about Delphine mistreating her slaves. Now, of course, like, slavery was looked upon differently back in this time. So there's, and like, I hate to say it, but it is a part of history. Back then, if you beat your slave like you beat your child today, like if you, okay, let's say you beat your child today, CPS gets called. Back then, you beat your slaves, what are they gonna do? And like, I hate to say it, it's horrible, but unfortunately, that's like the cold hard truth. It's not until you get to Delphine's level of mistreatment later on that you really pay the price for what you've done to a human life. So there's rumors going around that she mistreats her slaves, but nothing's done. Okay, so 1828, there's rumors circulating that Delphine abuses her slaves and mistreats them. And I gotta give it to Delphine, she's clever. So between 1818 and 1832, Delphine actually frees 2 of her slaves. And between 1818 and 1832, there is this rumor still going around that she mistreats her slaves. Okay. Harriet Martineau. There's a written rumor by Harriet going around that that Delphine does indeed mistreat her slaves. So a lawyer comes to Delphine's house, investigates, finds no evidence that Delphine is mistreating her slaves. And during this time, she has freed 2 of her slaves. Clever woman. But the lawyer just simply reminds her, like, you need to make sure you're properly caring for your slaves, because yes, they might be your slaves, but they're still humans. You still need to care for the humans. It's so sad because, like, it's like a slap on the wrist from, like, the SPCA. No, feed your dog. Like, these are human lives, but different time. Okay, so the lawyer finds nothing wrong. Now, between 1830 and 1834, there are 12 slave deaths. Like, there are a record of 12 slaves dying. But this record does not say how the slaves died. It's believed that it was infectious diseases, but there's no record of how they actually died. Amongst, 5. Okay, so 5 of the 12 deaths that were recorded between 1830 and 1834 were of a cook and a laundress and her 4 children. Her 4 children were 13, 10, 6, and 2. And the cook was 30. She was 30. Now, after that lawyer went to the house and found no evidence of Delphine mistreating her slaves, Harriet, who was publicly spreading these rumors, recounted her rumors. And even stated that the lawyer went to the house and found nothing wrong. So after all of this happens, the first murder, I guess you can say, happens. A neighbor, after all of this goes down, sees a child slave, approximately 8 years old, on the roof of Delphine's mansion. See where this is going? Now, it is said that the neighbor who saw the child on this roof said the child was running from Delphine. Now, at this point, there's rumors as to why the child was running Delphine. Keep in mind, the child's approximately 8. And the rumor is that the child was brushing Delphine's hair, hit a snag, and Delphine grabbed a whip and began to chase her. The child ran to the roof. Delphine had the whip, and the child fell. Now the child died, and the child was buried on the mansion grounds. So there's known haunting number 1. So according to Harriet, who had already spread all these rumors, that opened Delphine up to a formal investigation. I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, at this point, a child is dead, and a neighbor witnessed it. So during this investigation, they were found, the LaLauries, the husband included, they were found guilty of illegal cruelty, and they were forced to forfeit 9 of their slaves. The slaves were brought back by a relative. Now, another rumor about this time, started by Harriet, breaks out, and it is said that Delphine chained her cook to the stove, and when her daughters, she has daughters, when her daughters attempt to feed the slaves, because I mean, look at her daughters trying to be decent people while their mom is over here chaining slaves to the stove. It is said that she would beat her daughters for trying to feed the slaves. Nice, right? So in 1834, a fire broke out in the kitchen of the mansion on Royal Street. So once the fire breaks out, police and fire marshals arrive on the scene, and they do find the cook. The cook is a 74-year-old woman that was chained to the stove by her ankle. She was alive. So she admits that she did start the fire, but she started it in an attempt to end her own life, because she'd rather have ended her own life than be punished by Delphine. And the punishment was going to an attic and never returning. So a local paper, and this happened April 10th. The fire broke out April 10th. On April 11th, a local paper, neighbors were trying to break into the attic, where it is claimed that these slaves went up and never returned. They asked Delphine and her husband Louis for the key. They were denied. Now a judge, his name was Judge Canonage. Anyway, he ended up breaking in to this attic. Now, in this attic, you find slaves that are emaciated, covered in scars from clearly being beaten, whipped. There were at least 7 slaves so badly mutilated, they were hanging by their neck. They had their limbs either stretched out, causing dislocations, or just they were torn off entirely. Now, when the judge questioned Lewis, Delphine's husband, about the slaves, Lewis basically turned and said, "Mind your business. This is my home. These are my slaves. Mind your business." There were even slaves that were wearing spiked collars that would cause pain if they adjusted their head in any way outside of how Delphine had them positioned. At this point, there's a whole bunch of rumors circulating about what was really in that attic. The only thing that every rumor has in common is that every rumor really truly has in common is the fact that there were slaves up there, emaciated, scarred, mutilated. It is said that Delphine used torture tools on these slaves aside from those spiked collars. Now, once this discovery came about, people were disgusted. They were appalled. A mob basically demolished and destroyed everything that they could get their hands on at the property. And the slaves they're taken away from the LaLauries. And they're actually put in a jail for public viewing. Kind of as and this is kind of what gets me. It was like a heed my warning, don't do this to your slaves. That was the intention. Unfortunately, I think they went about that the wrong way. I don't think you should have put them in a jail for public viewing, as if they have not been through enough. And you would think that would be the end of this. But no. A few weeks later, 2 of the slaves that were removed from the mansion died from the injuries that they had withstood working under or being owned by the LaLauries. Rumors start circulating as to why the LaLauries were dismembering slaves and torturing them. And at this point, like, the LaLauries have been run out of town. But the rumors are still going and people are still talking. Now, some people believed that Delphine would, like, bathe in their blood. Like, she was the local Elizabeth Bathory. Some people just said it was pure hatred, that she just hated slaves. Because now we go back to the beginning where a family member was murdered by a slave. Some people say she was just an evil person. Now keep in mind, her current husband is a doctor. Now there is one rumor that says that he is involved because he is performing medical experiments on the slaves. Granted, he did not have their consent, but that's one of the rumors. So the LaLauries have been run out of town. They no longer are in New Orleans. There are rumors circulating about why they did this, blah, blah, blah. And the mansion was never torn down. And there is no 100% record of why the LaLauries did this. Yeah, there's speculation and all of that. But there's no 100%, hey, they did this because they were performing experiments, or they did this because they're just horrible human beings. Like, there is no actual count of why. Alright, we are back. I wanted to hop off camera to pop on my lashes. We have some Luja lashes, some Jeffree Star fully nude. Now we're going to highlight. So at this point, the LaLauries have fled New Orleans. They are no longer in the city. It is believed that they fled to Paris. Now, that's where Louis was from. So it wouldn't surprise anyone if that was the case. So it is believed that they fled to Paris, and after that, honestly, the LaLauries are never heard from again. The mansion transfers ownership numerous times. Nicolas Cage currently owns it and has been the subject of many ghost tours. Many everything, really. The LaLauries were one of the darkest stories in New Orleans history. Now, the building itself did not survive. It was rebuilt. It's still at 1140 Royal Street. It's on the corner of Governor Nichols and Royal. It's considered to be the most haunted place in New Orleans. I personally think that it is. I definitely think it's up there, but I think places like Charity Hospital, where a lot more people died, are haunted. The house itself was burnt down in 1834 by the mob. And it stayed that way. Like, it stayed burned to the ground and in a ruined state for 4 years. And then in 1838, it was rebuilt by Pierre Trastor. It was used as a public high school, a music conservatory, an apartment building, a refuge for young delinquents, a bar, a store, a luxury apartment building. And then in the 19th century, it had a third floor building. It had a third floor added and a rear building added on Governor Nichols' side, which had one floor until the 20th century. It was remodeled in the 70s, and a second floor was added to that rear building. So since LaLaurie, the original architecture that Delphine managed and constructed, it is no longer there. It is a whole new building that has been redone numerous times. It is believed to be one of the most haunted places in New Orleans. I think, yes, I do think it is haunted, but I also think that it has that haunted appeal that people are so interested in because of the horrific acts that were performed in that building. So, all right, guys, thank you for joining me for story time. I actually like this look. You like the bow? I figured I should put a bow in my hair to liven up, to make a really dark story bright and cute. Oh my gosh, I'm awful. Okay. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed story time. The videos are gonna continue to evolve and get better as we go through more of the dark history that is New Orleans. I still have a few murders I want to get through before I start talking about like historical icons and historical locations. Don't worry, we are going to talk about Marie Laveau. I do have plans to not only do a haunted history tour, but do a ghost tour. And then kind of compare their information to my information. So we have a lot of fun things happening. I have a lot of fun ideas to go through, and I am so excited for this year. I hope you guys enjoy this year, and I hope that you enjoy these videos because I'm having the time of my life. Not only creating these videos, but doing the research for them. So thank you guys for watching. I love you, and I will see you in my next video.